Good morning, everyone. My name is Barry Miller, the president of the Closing Agent. I'm also an attorney. Thanks for joining us here downtown and all in our branch offices. Thanks to everyone out there. Before we introduce one of our sponsors, I want to make sure everyone goes and downloads, while we're doing that, please download on the App Store, Poll Everywhere. Username is TCA University. That's our interactive that will be doing polling questions. You can ask questions from down in the branches and from here locally. So just do that. It's in there. Keep that on there for every class on there. So one of the things is we cannot put these on without sponsors. And that's one of the nice things that we do, that we offer them. Education is a big thing here at the Closing Agent. Every month we put on a different seminar. We are formulating our calendar for next year. So if anyone has any topics that you think would be of interest, please let us know, because we're always looking for good topics. This is a new topic that we're doing this month that we haven't done before. So get that all done. And first we want to introduce Jennifer from Sile Insurance, which is also, Sile is in a big promoter of education, whether at their facility that we've done some over the years, or having us here. They do everything from A to Z on insurance. And I know we do our health insurance through them.
Health rep I just saw downstairs. He's here today, having the meeting at the same time with HR.
Oh, wait a minute, it's the annual time again. Every November, it's like, who we going with? Blue Cross again, or are we switching back to what's the other one that we do? United. Yeah. It's like the only two games in town, all that. So tell us, everyone, a little bit about what you do. Let me give you the microphone so that way well, you do, because on the branches I can't hear you.
Okay.
So just kind of hold this one.
All right, got it. Thank you. I did pass out, I guess I shouldn't stand in front of there. I passed out some flyers for you guys, and I'm going to also email them to Janelle so she can make sure everybody gets a copy as well, a PDF. But like you said, we're an independent agency. We write all over the state of Florida, all lines of business, but specifically for homeowners insurance, I think we have about 42 carriers now that we write with. So we can write anything from high value, new construction, all the way to if you ever come across maybe a home that has some outdated things like polybutylene piping, Federal Pacific electrical panel, maybe aluminum wiring. We can write all of those as well. We have one carrier that will take any age roof, as long as there's been no prior claims on the property, no prior water claims, or no current leaks. So as long as the home's in good condition, they will take pretty much any age. Depending on what they plan to do with some of those outdated things, if the 4-point comes back, we can write it a couple different ways. If they plan to update it within 30 days after closing and they're willing to put that in writing, we can give them a regular policy, no exclusions, no extra high premiums. They would just have to provide us with pictures and receipts showing that that was done within that 30-day period. If they don't do it within that 30 days, or they don't know when they might update it, or maybe not ever, it's about a 30% higher premium for that. But say it's 8 months down the road or a year and a half, they could always shop it then. They don't have to wait till their year renewal. So that's another benefit of being with a brokerage. We have a customer service department that's amazing. They would just call them and let them know, now my home's in better condition than it was when I closed, and I'd like to shop around and see if I can get better coverage. And the same thing, they just provide the receipts or the picture showing that that was updated, whatever might have been done. And our customer service department is awesome. Our new business team department is awesome. We try to go above and beyond, extra steps to make your life easier, make the client's life easier during the process of buying a home. After they close, we do send them a letter saying, hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm with Sile Insurance. I'm your customer service rep. This is my direct phone number, my direct email if you have any questions. A lot of people typically don't even know who their homeowner's insurance is until something happens, and then they're calling you and trying to find out, go through paperwork. So we try to make sure they know who we are and how to find us if they need any help. But right now, hurricane season is on from June 1st all the way to November 30th. Typically September, October right now is our busiest storm season. So I passed out some of these flyers for you guys to look over. There is one out there right now. So we are, that is the box.
So we are all in the box.
We are under binding restrictions right now. We are not binding anything in the whole state of Florida as of yesterday. I think we have maybe 1 or 2 that are writing until 5 p.m. today. But after today, it's completely restricted. And they probably won't lift those restrictions for a few days. So if you have a closing coming up during this period where there is a storm out there, we've come up with something, and it's down here in the right-hand corner called Sile Connect. It's an app, and it's something to help you guys get ahead of the game during that period. So you can see how big that box is. I mean, it covers a huge area, several states. So even if you don't think it's coming directly towards us, they still, because it could turn at any time, they still would restrict the whole state as far as binding coverages. You can't change anything on your policy. So if you have that app downloaded on your phone, and it's not going to send you a bunch of stuff, but as long as you have that app downloaded, it's free. It will send you a notification before it gets to that restriction box area, letting you know if you do have a closing coming up, to make sure they secured insurance, make sure that the lenders have the paperwork that they need, the binder, which is proof of insurance for closing. We can bind up to 30 days out. Even if for some reason they don't close, or if it falls through, they don't have to pay anything or sign anything to cancel. But they do have the coverage as long as they have that binder. So as long as you have that app, whether they're going with whoever, typically they get their insurance quotes right at the beginning during the offer process, and then the week of closing is when they secure the policy, and we get with the lender and get them the binder and everything. So we kind of make sure that you guys are ahead of the game during that time during a storm, so it doesn't hold up your closings, because they are suspended usually for a couple days, those insurance carriers. And the app is really easy to use. You can send referrals through there. You can just put your name, what office you're from, then your client's name, contact information, and the property address, and you're done. But I also work however you guys want to work. My cell phone and my email's on down at the bottom there. And I am a licensed agent, so even if you just have a question, or if your client has a question, you can always call or text or email me. But you can send referrals any way you guys like. Some agents want to get the quotes and provide them to their clients. Some just send me their client's name and phone number. I call and get the information. Or you can give out my phone number to them and they can call me. However you guys want to work is fine with me. It'll all get to the same place. Wind mitigation is a big thing. That's our biggest discount we have. So if the roof is in good condition, but you might not know when it was done, you know it's not original, but you can't find a permit. Sometimes permits weren't pulled during Charlie, that time of year. It was hard to get a permit. I would suggest getting the wind mitigation inspection done, because the discount's always going to be much greater than what they pay for that inspection. My home, for example, was one of those that I knew it wasn't the original roof, 30-something years old, but we couldn't find a permit. So I saved $600 every year. That's a recurring discount from that inspection I got done, which I think was about $100. So that's the biggest discount that insurance companies offer. So I would always suggest going ahead and getting that done so they can save that money there. 2005 or newer, if you can prove the roof is done or the home is built within that time, the inspection's not really needed, because we'll automatically give them those credits if it's newer than 2005. Yeah, that might change because of Irma, but as of right now, it's still, they're still going back to the Charlie time period. So and if you guys have any questions, like I said, you can always text or email me, or have your clients, and I can go over and explain. If you do come across any of those situations like polybutylene piping, I have really good flyers on that as well that I can send you with pictures that it kind of explains what to look for on the inspections. You guys have any questions? No, I know I talk really fast. But yeah, that's all I have. And like I said, just let me know if you guys need anything. I guess that's going over to you now, maybe, Peter? Movement Mortgage? Next? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. And I have wind mitigation, flood, condo insurance. We've got a ton of flyers on almost every situation. So if you ever want to provide something to your clients on one of those things, I most likely have something on it. I don't know if they're on the website. They might be. If not, we just got a brand new digital marketing girl, and she's awesome, but I could probably have her add a section for those that you could just get right off the website, because that would be easy. That would make sense. Good.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you guys for having me.
Good. I didn't know the box covered the whole. I figured since it went up to the panhandle.
Yeah. I think they say about 300 miles out.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Always something new. Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. I need to do a little technical test right now.
So, you went on that one now?
Okay, so since Robert and I are both going to introduce this, so can you guys just let me know from the branches, can you guys hear me? Good? Can you guys hear? Celebration?
Yes.
Well, okay, Altamont?
Yes.
All right, Chloe, can you hear us?
Yes.
Excellent, all right.
Yes.
High tech here. Okay, so I want to introduce to you Robert Garcia. He's a senior associate with the firm, kind of new with us. He's going to be teaching the class with me today. And Robert does everything from A to Z on real estate with me. He also has an expertise and does our litigation again. We're seeing a lot of stuff now on Johnson v. Davis, which is, buyer beware, where people aren't disclosing, and you guys have heard me say over the years, disclose, disclose, disclose. I have a new one this week. I haven't even talked to the client yet. These people bought a brand new house, and they were supposed to have some sort of pest or termite system that's built into the walls. The builder forgot to put it in, didn't even tell them, they closed. Now the builder said, well, sorry, it's nothing we can do about it. And apparently they don't even want to get their money back. So that's what we got a fun one to do. So anyhow, so Robert's joining me. We're glad to have him part of the team. So today we're going to talk about HUD homes. So how many people have, by show of hands, has ever dealt with a HUD home? Oh, good, good. So we're going to kind of go over the basics of what we need to know. It's like all new things. It's a little scary at first, but it really isn't that bad. And the nice thing is on the HUD, what the HUD homes is, you'll see there's all kinds of different things, and it's not a whole lot on there. One of the big things on it is the control, which is very unusual, as the buyer can pick the title agent and HUD pays for it. So we can do your closing. And Phyllis, who's up in our Altamont office, has done lots and lots of HUD closings and is very familiar with it. So we're going to kind of delve right into it. And this never works for me. So you see it that.
Let's see if this works. Let's test it out.
Okay, so let's go on to your, let's test your poll everywhere and put up the first one there. This is sky blue. Is it working? Yeah. Yep.
It's great today, right?
It's overcast. It's overcast. It's yeah. All right, just want to make sure that works with everyone. Okay.
Let's try. Here we go.
Okay.
So, do we understand what HUD is? Has anyone? I know you said you worked with HUD before. Anyone else?
Yeah.
You haven't before. Okay. HUD is the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's one of the federal agencies that oversees our housing market. One of the primary purposes of HUD is to pass rulemaking. It has rulemaking authority, which means it basically can pass laws for general intents and purposes for us lay people. It's almost like laws. It's almost like Congress. They can pass their rules and say, this is what's required in the housing market. This is how many days. This is what we want from the sellers. This is what we want from the buyers. And one of the primary purposes is to provide affordable housing. So what does HUD do for purposes of our presentation today? HUD takes ownership of homes that have been foreclosed on FHA loans, the Federal Housing Administration loans. Once those loans have been foreclosed on, HUD takes ownership, and now HUD then sells those homes to third parties. And those third parties can be a series of different people, and we'll get into that next. So a home is a property owned by HUD, which HUD acquired by way of a foreclosure action. One very, I hit it on the beginning, one of the primary aspects of HUD sale is the control. HUD controls. This is not traditional sale where there's a lot of negotiations between the buyer and the seller as to, hey, I want days of inspection, who's going to be paying for title, how much is going to be paying toward closing costs, as is condition. A lot of those terms are not negotiable in HUD. HUD is not the only federal agency that sells property. So have any of you ever dealt with any of these other agencies? The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, the FDIC, which you guys probably are familiar with as to your bank accounts that are insured, the IRS, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Customs and Immigration, the U.S. Marshal Service, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So HUD, even though it's a housing and urban development, is not the only governmental agency that sells real property. These agencies, less common. Most realtors haven't had experience with them. So when
And just we'll go back to that second. So the other ones kind of that I've seen is, it's always interesting, is the U.S. Marshal Service. They're not really out there, but sometimes I've had clients over the years that have bought from them. It's usually good stuff. You know why?
It's hooked up.
Exactly.
Nice.
This is usually drug confiscation.
Yeah.
So they do a lot of cars, boats, stuff like that, but they do have homes every once in a while. Department of Agriculture comes in sometimes because of the, what are those loans they do? It's called, huh?
USDA.
Yeah, the USDA loan. So sometimes those come up, but not too often. The IRS, of course, that's based on when they do a confiscation for taxes. Those can be a little bit more tricky because the title is very important on that, because usually title is very screwed up. FDIC, we don't see a whole lot anymore. We saw a lot of it during the recession and during the bank failures of the 80s. So when we do come into recession and banks fail, whatever doesn't get taken over by another bank, sometimes FDIC does. VA usually does not, because the servicer is the one that ends up doing the foreclosure and they sell it through that way. So veterans is very, very rare. A lot of people are like, how come there's not a lot of VA loans? So just remember the servicers don't do them, they go through the regular channels. Okay, so which of the following ways does HUD not acquire property? By acquiring title by way of foreclosure of an FHA insured mortgage, by bequest of a testamentary demise, gift to the will, by seizure of assets as a result of a criminal activity, by inter vivos gift.
What username are we using for this thing again?
TCAU. Yep.
Oh, wait, what's the
Which of the following ways does HUD not acquire? Well, obviously HUD acquires title by way of foreclosure.
There you go, TCAU.
By bequest of testamentary gift? No.
It's A.
Oh, you did, okay.
Okay, so they obviously don't, HUD doesn't get title by gifting it by a will. By seizures of assets or criminal, they don't get it by that way, and they don't get it by inter vivos. So B, C, and D is correct. Okay. So kind of going through this, you got to go to the website. And so it's like kind of all websites, especially with the government, they're not the greatest in the world. And it's not like, it's not, it's kind of, you got to kind of look at it as this is the MLS of HUD homes, but MLS has got a whole lot more on there. So if you go to their main site, which is HUDhomestore.com, and then you can see whatever's in there. You can click on it by state, see what's there. Question, if you have a client that goes on the site and says, oh, I saw a property in Georgia, can you help me buy that property? How many people say yes? Let me say no. Correct, you're not licensed in Georgia. So now what you can do is work with another agent in Georgia and get a referral fee. So make sure you still can get your referral fees. So you kind of go there, and this is a typical property that we just kind of put up. So it says what your eligible bidders are. We're going to go through that in a minute. Tells you what your deadline is. And notice on here, though, it's on Central Time. So you've got to be careful of the time zones of what's out there. And it's strange because this property is in Jacksonville, which is in the Eastern Time zone. So why are they on Central? If you figure it out, let me know, and then you have solved the problems of the federal government. All right, submission deadlines, 2 days, 12 hours left. Availability of this home is subject to the asset manager accepting a bid from an earlier bid period or removing the home from the market. Okay, so what does that mean? It means it's been on before, something must have happened with the first bidder, and it successfully didn't work. They put it back on, but they're still working some of the lower bids that may come up. So again, don't get excited on these things. It's like any bid, any auction, wherever it is, you always tell your client, there's lots of things that can happen. New bid opening procedures for bids submitted on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and federal holidays. All right, so then it goes, you got property, amenities, addendums, maps, and agents. So we see the property, 6 rooms, 3 bedroom, 1 bath. Square footage, you got all your basic stuff on here, HOA. And again, I would not rely on what they have in there. I would independently try to check and see if there's an HOA. You got your listing information on there. And again, buyer selects the closing agent of the firm. So pretty basic, got some pictures on there.
One thing that's important to note is here, you'll see right there, 203K eligible. Some of these properties, one of the downsides of buying a HUD home is it's a foreclosed home. So one potential issue your clients could face is the home has been neglected. The home needs repairs. You know, if you're going into foreclosure, why are you spending money? You're not going to maintain the pool. You're not going to maintain the roof. You're going to say, you know, the heck with that. So sometimes our clients and your clients are going to need to know whether they can get a loan to improve the property to make it livable for them. So let's see. Going back on the website here, we have the HUD website again. Each tab will provide you with the addendums, the property information, the amenities, addendums, maps, and agent information.
But you can see there's very little information. It just has two-car garage and a slab. So they don't give a whole lot of information.
That's the description. Sensitive.
Okay. And then, for required addendums they have there, of course, there'll be the disclosures that they have. We're going to go into that a little bit more. The pre-populated sales contracts, so they make it easy, and the contract package. So they just let you know what's there. You can click on those, and then it takes you right to the document. Right, and then it's just got the agent info like here, so who the listing agent is on it, who the asset manager is. Just like most of the foreclosures, usually the asset managers won't communicate with you. Some of them do, but you got to remember they're getting hundreds of inquiries. So you know, don't think they're just ignoring you. And the field service manager will usually never contact the agents or the people they don't want to get involved. I promise you, I don't know why they put that on there.
So yeah, the person you'll be dealing with primary is the listing broker right here. And you'll see that the asset manager, like Barry said, they're handling hundreds of assets. So Marietta, Georgia, Doral, Florida, suburb of Miami, and then Orange Park. So they spread all over.
Yeah, and don't be surprised, because the same thing happens when you're in recession with all the Fannie Mae houses that went on direct. Like they had local agents that handled them. And I had lots of buyer's agents will say, can you believe them? They won't even respond to an email. She won't even return a phone call. It's because they get hundreds of inquiries. Most of these people are a little bit better, but like the Fannie Mae ones, don't expect a phone call back. They just don't.
There you go. So we talked about the asset manager, the listing broker, the field service manager. So who are they? Just a synopsis. The asset manager is the HUD contractor responsible for the sale of the property. Top of the food chain, the end of the totem pole. So that's why Barry was saying this person normally has hundreds, if not thousands, of assets of homes, condos, properties under his or her belt. So he or she is probably not going to be responding to you. Second person we have is the listing broker. Person who's been hired to market the property. That's who you're going to be dealing with primary. That's the person that's going to have most of the information. Probably is going to be local. Probably knows the area, knows the home, knows the downsides and the upsides to the property. Then you have the field service manager. Again, it's a foreclosed home. These homes sometimes have been neglected. So they hire, the asset manager hires a field service manager who comes in and performs the maintenance. And they'll make some bare bone repairs to the property and put lipstick on the pig in order to make it showable to your clients. And then the selling brokers. One of the key aspects of a HUD property is that you and your broker need to be registered with HUD. If you are not registered with HUD, you can't sell the property. So if you're working with first-time home buyers, it's really important that you become registered with HUD, because HUD homes can be a great deal. And we'll go into the next slide as to why they can be great deals for first-time home buyers. So how do you bid on a property in HUD?
Well, let me just ask a question. How many people in here are registered from before, are registered as an agent with to sell? You guys are. The one thing you got to also make sure is if your broker is registered, because I've had before where agents go online, they do a lot of work, and then their broker's not registered. If your broker's not, you can't. So you got to make sure they are on there. So when you're bidding on them, a bid is submitted by the selling broker, which would be you, through the website. Remember we saw on here the contract and all that. The selling broker is the only person who can do it. So one of the things is some people think, oh, I don't need an agent, I can do it myself. They can't. They have to have it. So one of the good things is to try to hook up with some investors, because then you'll see they're on the bottom of the chain that we talked about as far as eligibility, and usually they get the crap that's left over. But those investors who like to buy these, fix them up and flip them, it's great. So if you know some of those and they're not buying HUD homes, align with them now, start watching this for them, and then you can start getting sales. Now, why is that good? Because you can turn it into a double deal, or as one of my agents used to call it, a double bubble. Because what you do is you're going to get the commission when you acquire it, but make sure you do an arrangement with them and say, I'm going to help you do this. It's not a lot of money on this because they're low, but I want the listing from you at the same time. So make sure to get them committed. And so when they go, yeah, no problem, you go, yeah, I'm going to have you sign a listing agreement now, okay? Because later they'll go, oh, never mind, someone drove by and I sold it to them, all right? They'll do that to you, so get them to sign it. And now the question is, they may say, well, I don't want to sign a listing agreement now. Let's date it for 3 months from now, okay? So then you have a problem, because if that someone drives by and buys it, you may be shut out, because the effective date of that listing agreement is not until sometime in the future. So have the listing agreement current, put a current date on it, but in the additional terms, just put something in there saying, any inquiry, house is being renovated, expected time is to be 90 days, will be listed in the MLS at that time. Any inquiries previous to that will be, or any inquiries or sold, any inquiries or sales contracts before renovation are completed are subject to this listing agreement, because otherwise they're going to try to cut you out of that. What's that? Sure.
HUD is only homes that were foreclosed that were FHA mortgages, so you never see something conventional. So when you go online, you see all these foreclosures. Those are all excluding FHA homes.
Correct.
Is the process similar?
To a non-FHA? So the question is the process similar to non-FHA? The answer is no. Because if it's a non-FHA, it goes through the servicer, brings the foreclosure action in the circuit court. And then, which these do too when they get foreclosed, these HUD gets back because the HUD bids them in. So it's the same thing on that. The conventional ones, you go through the clerk of the court. If no one buys it back, then obviously the lender gets it. Now, in that case, the lender just hires a local agent and puts it on the market. So there's no bidding process, there's no qualification process. It's strictly as whatever they want to do. So that's more of a conventional sale at that point. Okay, so they classify the buyers, and obviously part of the whole idea behind this HUD is to get first-time home buyers into the property. So they have preferences, and we're going to show what they have preferences for. So individuals who have not purchased a HUD property as an owner occupancy with the last 2 years, they can bid in what they call the exclusive and extended periods. So obviously this is great for first-time home buyers, but it takes a certain type of first-time home buyer for a HUD home. Because, some first-time home buyers, this is their first time and they don't know into it and they want to walk into a house and that's it. These are not for them because generally these need work. But if they're the type that can do that, they can get a good deal and do it. But you've got to really vet out your client, because if they're, let's say a young couple that they're busy and they got 2 kids, this is probably not for them. They want to move in right away. This is probably not for them. So you don't want to get them into this because they say, hey, I saw this $91,000 house like we saw up there. I want to buy it. Well, but it needs $30,000 worth of work. And they said, oh, I heard I can get a 203K loan. Yeah, if you want to administer all that, they don't know what they're getting into. So make sure they really know what they're going to get into. And then obviously we got investors, which are eligible investors can bid, and that's in the extended period.
Sensitive remote. So one of the third classifications of buyers we have is good neighbor next door. If any of your buyers and any of your clients are an officer, an important law enforcement officer, teacher, firefighter, EMT, they get a great deal in a HUD home. Again, the purpose of HUD, one of the primary purposes of HUD is to provide affordable housing. So the good neighbor is the ultimate what HUD likes to see. We want to get those teachers, those law enforcement officers, those police officers, those EMTs into a property at a discounted price. And a lot of times they can take a discount up to 50% off the list price, which for teachers, firefighters, police officers, that's a huge benefit.
So this is a great marketing opportunity. Part of the one things we do here is we want to help you grow your business and all. So think about this for a second. But market to these people, law enforcement. Well, how do you do that? Well, maybe find out when there's something for OPD officers that they're doing some sort of fundraiser, or they're doing something in the community. Teachers, go to your PTA meetings, find out what it is, go to school board meetings. Firefighters, same thing. If you see that there's a HUD home in a neighborhood, go down to the fire department and say, hey guys, I just want to come in here and introduce myself to you. There's a home down the street. You guys, someone say, wow, I'd like to live there, work. EMTs are good. Teachers, for example, go into the credit union, teachers credit union, sit and talk to a loan officer there and say, hey, you're talking with some teachers looking for a loan, and I want to tell them about this. I'm focusing on HUD homes. This would be a great opportunity for them. So go out to where these people are, because this is a great deal. I mean, now what they do is they have a second mortgage on the house and it's forgiven as long as they stay there. But this is like free money, folks. It's better than the bond program.
The last 2 classifications of buyers we have is the HUD registered governmental agencies and the HUD registered nonprofits. These are less common. Most realtors don't have experience with them, but governmental agencies can buy a HUD home. Purpose, they want to staff their employees in there for whatever reason, and nonprofits as well.
Right, and this very rarely, I very rarely see this now. Anyone know what this HUD registered nonprofits can be? Habitat for Humanity. Okay, so they look at doing these. And again, do you know any nonprofits you deal with that might be trying to look for housing? Maybe you have a local church that might be trying to do that, a nonprofit that's looking for housing for their people. So think about that, because then you can register that nonprofit and then sell it for them too. I mean, rather buy it for them.
So we have 5 classifications of buyers. You have your owner occupant, you have your good neighbor, you have your investor, and then you got the HUD registered governmental agency and the HUD registered nonprofits. Understanding where your client falls into what category is important, because you need to know when you can bid on property. So the lottery period. Again, HUD's primary purpose is to provide affordable housing. Who's the primary target they're hitting? Law enforcement officers, police, teacher, EMTs, firefighters. So once the property goes on the market and you have to go to the HUD home site, store, on the website, you have the lottery period. First 8 days where only good neighbors can submit bids. So then the second period is called the exclusivity period, and it's 15 days following the expiration of the 8-day period. So your bid opens up on the 8th day. This is for the owner occupants, the good neighbors as well, and the governmental entities and nonprofits. And after the expiration of the exclusive period, we go into the extended period, which is when anyone can bid, which is your investors. A lot of times the good properties are taken up already because by the primary people, but sometimes investors still do find, some fixer-uppers, which there's great equity potential.
Is that in there in here and I just don't see it?
On the handle, yeah, it should be in there.
It's on where they're at, they're on the second page. I just don't see lottery.
Yeah.
But I just see exclusive and.
Yeah, can you go back to that? Oh,
Yeah.
never mind. Can you
Yeah.
just leave that other slide?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. never-
So lottery is the first 8 days, and that's only the good neighbor next door are eligible.
8 days.
And then after that, it gets open to owner occupants up to day 15. Right?
And by the way, be careful of people. Make sure to ask them and make sure they do qualify for that area, that they are a first-time home buyer or a first-time HUD buyer, because they do check.
So to clarify that, first-time home buyer is anybody who hasn't owned a home, have ownership interest in a home in the last 3 years. And HUD owned is anybody who hasn't been an owner occupant in a HUD home in the last 2 years. So just so you all know.
Right, so make sure that they do check on those things.
Okay.
And be wary of clients. I represented 2 realtors in my old firm a couple years ago, who had their licenses revoked. It was the realtor's client was saying, hey, I'm going to buy this home. It's going to be owner occupant. It's going to be, one of my primary homes. And he qualified as an owner occupant. But the situation was he didn't want to live in the property. He was going to live with his girlfriend for free and rent out the property. But it was a great home, no perfect moving condition, no remodeling needed, great equity. This was back in 2010 or 11, so the market was just beginning to get out of the recession. And so he said he was going to be owner occupant. They checked on him. And that realtor knew what was going on, turned a blind eye. And this realtor, who had over 18 years of experience, lost his license. So sometimes it's not worth it for that, for the commission. So who can have bid on a HUD home during the exclusive period?
Good, pay attention. Right. Any questions anyone has? So anyone just kind of type them in there? See, now we get to see up there. Kobe, your microphone's on, so say hello out there. Can Kobe hear us? Raise your hand to Kobe. No?
Yeah.
Okay. 7 second delay. Okay, is Winter Park back? So interesting enough, our Winter Park office, the whole building just went out of power.
Oh,
So hurricane effects, Okay, do correction officers count as good neighbors? Yes. If, let me
Hello.
specify that. If they are a correction officer for a government agency, if they work a correction officer for a prison, no. No, because we do have private facilities now and they do not qualify. So just make sure you realize that.
Well, wouldn't that also depend, because I know there's private prisons, but they still have public employees and the other way around also. So they just gotta make sure who the boss is, basically.
correct. Who do they work for? Do they work for a government agency or do they work?
Yeah,
And just so you know, in a private prison, they do not work for the government.
the other way around, and a public one, there's.
The contracting. It depends.
Yeah,
who
because there's a
and
contract.
employer.
I used to be a probation officer, that's why.
Yeah, so
that's what I'm
private
saying.
prisons have private employees.
Yeah.
that employ.
It's the other way.
All right.
around.
How do you find a HUD-approved broker? Well, you have to ask your broker. I mean, wherever you have your license, you ask them if they're HUD-approved. It's not a hard process. So make sure to ask your broker, they go online and do it.
One thing about marketing is I see a lot of times on realtors' websites, on their profiles, they don't have it. They're HUD approved. Sometimes they don't mention it. If you're going to be working with first-time home buyers, it's just good to put a little snippet in your bio saying you're HUD approved. Because sometimes these buyers are going to go out there, they'll hear on the internet, they'll see on the news, they'll read in the paper, about these great deals on HUD homes. If you have it on your bio, you may be able to get more business going. So, any additional questions? Do they qualify if they are retired service personnel?
If you're retired,
I'm not sure.
no,
I don't think so.
no. You have to be actively working in, like a retired police officer, no. I believe, I'm not saying with 100% certainty, but my understanding is they have to be in active service. Do they have to accept if a good neighbor puts in an offer or an owner occupied? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Maybe they mean if
Can you
they,
hear me?
if a
So
retired, if a person does it, do they get preference over?
If they would.
Does it have to be accepted? Is it like automatically accepted? Maybe that's what.
If a good neighbor offers first.
Yes,
Do they have to accept it?
Correct.
No.
and there's others, do they call?
No, they don't have to accept any offer. They can reject any offer at any time for any reason. But if they take them in the order. So if you're on the good neighbor part before they consider those, and just kind of think of it, they're all stacked up, all the bids. And they have the good neighbor ones, the investors are on the bottom. So if it ends up opening all that way, they're going to look at all of those first before they get down to the investor.
How do you become a HUD registered agent? Just go to their website, HUDhomestore.com. You'll see a tab, and it's in the pamphlet. NAID, name, address, identification. Click on that tab, and you can step through the process to register.
Yeah.
Okoe has a question. Okoe has a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
On your good neighbor next door and all of that, does everybody in that paragraph have to be active, like vets, EMTs?
I don't think that's what we done this. Were they?
No, it's a public service.
Yeah, so veterans are not on that list. So yes, the answer to the question is they have to be employed. So if they're retired, no. If they are, yeah, they have to be working for a police department, a fire department, an EMT. Yeah, they have to. It's meant to be for people so that they'll live. The theory is they want them to live in the neighborhoods where they work. Is what I'm focused on.
But vets are exempt, correct?
Veterans
You're a veteran and you're not active duty?
They don't qualify. A veteran doesn't make you a good neighbor.
Alone. You could also be a veteran who's a police officer, then you would qualify
Correct,
because you're a police officer.
But just as a vet, if I'm a vet, I'm not classified as a good neighbor. If I'm a vet and I'm an active police officer, yes. If I'm a police officer without being a vet, yes. So in other words, it doesn't matter whether you're a vet or not. There's no preference for it. Okay, let's go on to. All right. All right, I'm gonna take a little break. I think the food should be here. So let's go ahead and grab that and then come back up.
Do they have their own, well, they don't have their own listing agents, they pick people, but if we want to basically become a listing agent for them, how do we approach the asset managers and say, hey, send me some listings? Like, how do we get to that?
Here's a place to register and apply to become a listing agent on the website. So you have to put your application in, and there's a whole vetting process that has to be done.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, so they just don't pick somebody randomly, they pick them from there?
Correct, yeah, they don't just go here, I'm gonna pick
Yeah.
her. You gotta get.
Even if I call them up,
Yeah.
they,
Yeah.
okay.
We're back. All right, thanks everybody for coming. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Janelle, and Meredith is in our celebration office. There she is. Hi, Meredith. Okay, and both of us are salespeople, so if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we wanted to tell you about our Orlando Real Estate Showcase TV. If you guys have listings and you want them to be on a TV show, we show, 30 to 40 listings on a Saturday. on TV 27, channel 27 at 12:30. And your listings get about 20 to 25 seconds. And they pull all of the photos from the MLS, and then they have a voiceover, and it's lovely. And it's orestv.com. You can go directly to there, and you can fill out the form with MLS number for your listing, and we will showcase that for you. So let us know. And our next sponsor is Peter with Movement Mortgage, and he's going to come up and say a few words.
Do I need the mic or?
Nope.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Peter Kills, I'm with Movement Mortgage. Does anybody know how much a polar bear weighs?
Enough to bring back.
Hey! Yes. All right, so again, my name is Peter with Movement Mortgage. I always like to start off with a little joke just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. We are a direct lender, so we have full control over everything that we do. Our underwriting is in-house, our processing is in-house, our closing department is in-house. We also have a renovation department as well that can help with those 203K renovations. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But the message that I wanted to get across to you guys today is that we are here for you guys, and we want to really help you guys help support your business. And one of my goals in mortgages and in this industry is to help clients build wealth through the value of home ownership. And that's, I think, why a lot of us buy homes, is because we see the potential for a good investment, but also security for our family. So that's really where I want to excel and help my clients succeed, is that helping them show the value of making a slightly extra mortgage payment. What is that going to do on the back end? So that's really where I try to approach this industry. So again, I would love to meet everybody individually one-on-one, see if there's any opportunity where we can partner together. Like I said, that we do have a renovation department. And so we're talking a little bit about HUD homes today. And as Barry had mentioned previously, sometimes they are in disrepair. So we can actually build the cost of those repairs into the loan, as long as the numbers make sense. So if it goes to the FHA, the best thing to do would be called a 203K program, which is that renovation loan where you can build in the cost. There's a couple different ways we can get that done. There's a streamlined program, and there's also a full reno program. So, it just depends on what the scope of the work is, what needs to be done. And the best thing to do with those opportunities is to go through a HUD counselor, and we can help you guys get set up with somebody, because they're kind of like the liaison between the lender and the HUD. So if we can get, that's probably the best way to get these loans done. I think the work can take up to 6 months to occur. So we close in generally, I think, 45 days on those. You guys get paid at closing. The work gets done, and then for about 6 months, and then they can move in after, once the work is completed. The other unique thing with Movement Mortgage is that because we are direct, we have upfront underwriting. So we have what's called Movement Buyer's Advantage, MBA approvals. And so what we have the ability to do is we have the ability to send a buyer into underwriting before it goes anywhere else. So as long as we can make a decision on their income, credit, and assets, we can send them into underwriting to get a decision of underwriter committed pre-approval. And so all we have to do then at that point is to find the property and work on the loan. So our average is 21 days. Our underwriting philosophy as well is 671. So that's 6 hours to underwrite. So I can usually get a decision within 24 hours. I'd say if I could submit early morning, I could probably have a decision that day, or if I submit maybe in the afternoon, I'll get a decision the next day. 7 business days to process from there. So I submitted the loan, I think, Monday morning. It got approved that same day, and the processing target date for all the conditions to be in from the borrower side is the 17th. And so we can have this loan ready to close within that one day, again, 671. Once we have the final approval, 1 business day to get it through closing. So again, our average is about 21 days. I think our record is 6. So we can fly by the seat of our pants if we need to. Not everybody was happy in that transaction because, again, we were moving so quickly, but we were able to get it done to both buyer and seller. So again, that's me. That's my cell phone right there. I would love to be that mortgage resource for you. So please save my number as a mortgage resource. I'm available nights and weekends as well. So again, Peter Kilsheimer with Movement Mortgage. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You want to get started? We don't need the mic.
Do I need the mic? Okay,
No,
great.
we're using the webcam.
This is the most sensitive.
Mhm.
Okay, so how do you get a HUD home? The process. So step one requires that the broker to upload their license to the HUD website to verify their license status. Again, if you're not registered with HUD at this time, just go onto HUD, click on the NAID, name, address, identification, and register yourself there. Step two, well, you see right there, register name and address identifier. And then it's only good for 1 year, so make sure you keep your status active and in good standing. And then step three, you bid on the individual property by submitting the bid online through the HUD Home Store website. The HUD Home Store website, as Barry said, it's almost like the MLS for HUD Home. All the information is there. So HUD finances. Who's going to cover this aspect? But types of available finance: FHA, conventional, and cash. So again, the condition of the property, because it's a foreclosed home, is going to impact whether a FHA financing is available. And you're going to have categorized into 3 sections: insurable with escrow repair, insurable, and uninsurable. So the insurable with escrow repair is for properties that have less than $10,000 of damage, and it's eligible for FHA financing, but $10,000 must be put into escrow at the time of closing. Usually the property inspector's going to inspect the property at the time the HUD home goes on sale on the HUD website to determine what extent of damage is necessary. The insurable is eligible for FHA financing with no restrictions. That means property is pretty much in good condition. And the last one is uninsurable. It's going to need work. And then you have the 203K loans and the 203B loans. Is anyone familiar with the 203 loans? No. Well, no, you are. So, you want to take over on the 203 loans?
Well, I mean, basically what it is, they're really good to use. It's obviously, like it says here, it's a loan that helps you cover the purchase price, but the repairs of the property. It's a single loan product. It's a first loan. So it's really good in there, and it can be done. You know, it can be a little bit of a pain in the neck to do because you have to deal with the lender. They're going to come out and inspect. They want to make sure it's done. But again, it sounds complicated, but it really isn't too bad. Will your involvement be in it? No, because once it closes, it's up to the homeowner to do. So question, if your buyer says, well, I want you to administer it, you deal with the 203K loan. You say, no, I have a license to sell real estate. I don't have a contractor's license. So make sure, again, if you guys heard before, or stay in your lane of what to do, because you just open yourself up to liability. Now, one of the things I do need to let you know is there's a horrible problem in Florida of dealing with contractors. And let me tell you, I've dealt with lots of contractors over the years. 90% of them are thieves. All right, let's just put that out there. Right? And sorry if I had the Licensed Contractor Association here, I'd say to them, shame on you, because you don't police yourself. You're bad, you're horrible. First of all, you got to make sure you have someone that's licensed. And then, believe me, if you refer a contractor to your client and it doesn't work out, they're going to blame you. So I always tell people, find out who they are. Look on DBPR's website, see if they have any infractions against them. How many times there's been complaints filed against them? Obviously, people say, oh, well, you know, I asked them for some references and they were all good. Okay. Do you think that the contractor is going to give you all the people that complained? No. Look at third-party sources. You know, all these home improvement sites that are out there. Look at Yelp. Look at everything. Google's your best friend. Find out who they are. The other thing I always recommend is your client refer them to an attorney to review the contracts. Believe it or not, there's some guys out there that do no contracts or they do a one-pager. For example, what's the warranty on your work? Oh, don't worry, I'll give you a 1-year warranty. Where is it in writing?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't need to put it in writing. I just give you one. You know, it's useless. So you got to make sure you have the right person. We got to make sure that, for example, we just looked at a contract yesterday. There's no attorney's fees. So if you had to sue the contractor, it's nothing to do. Would be no attorney's fee provision. So you got to make sure you get someone aligned with someone. One thing is I always do with mine is require a retainage. So let's say it's $50,000 worth of repairs. We want 10% retainage, which means 10% of every draw gets held back to make sure at the end it's there. Because what happens at the very end, they get their last draw, there's punch out items to be done, and you never see them again. So if you don't hold back money, you won't get it done. Period, end of story. Like I said, that's 90%. So you got to be careful of who it is. Then the 203B loan is an additional loan with help coverage repairs in addition to the purchase, and that's if it's less than $5,000. So again, first-time home buyers, this is great, especially if they don't have cash, and because the HUD wants to make sure these homes get fixed up, back on the market, or back in people living in them. So that they're both good, and you know, working with a good lender that works with these, they can get through in a breeze. Okay, so which one of these can you not get FHA financing? Underinsured, insured, insured with escrow, or uninsured? Yep. Good. All right, the fun part, us lawyers like, the contracts. So you're going to get your bid. The asset manager sends the buyer the purchase and sale agreement, which you saw. You can see the form of it on there under the addendum section. You got to return it usually within 2 days. Now, don't forget, make sure to tell your people this up front. HUD can reject it for any reason. And they don't have to tell you. You filled it out wrong. Now, if you do something like that, they may tell you to fix it. But there can be different things. Like I said, they run background. They run, you put it in as the first-time home buyer and they're not. So just be careful on stuff like that.
So one of the key differences, we're all familiar with the FAR as-is contract. One of the great things about that contract is if you left it blank, there's a default in there, the home inspection, the title issue. HUD's contract don't have it. So if you leave it blank, your offer, your bid can get rejected. So section 1, fill out who is purchasing the property. Section 2,
make sure when you're purchasing the property, you have, again, the full names. You get a copy of their driver's license, full name in there. And I always make sure, if you've got 2 people, make sure they're both eligible. Because you might have a couple, let's say it's a young couple, and you think they're eligible because you've been talking to the husband, but the wife, you didn't really go over it. It may make you ineligible because she's already owned a home before. So just make sure to ask them, then you got to talk with your lender. If one is disqualified, then maybe just put it in one of their names as long as they qualify for the loan. But don't put it in one and then find out from your lender later that they need both to qualify, because then you're going to disqualify the whole situation. So it's important to do that.
so we have section 2 is how title is going to take to the property. Section 3.
So hold on that. So what happens when they say to you, agent, Robert and I are buying this property. How should we do that? What do you recommend? Anybody? What do you say?
Tenant and
Sorry?
yeah, there's a different one.
What's that?
Oh, Jesus, hold on, I have it right here.
By the entire day's joint.
Yeah, that thing, the three of them.
Which one?
You're just friends?
I don't know.
Well, I need to know before I even do this. Are you a married couple? Are you cousins, brothers?
We're cousins.
Okay, then it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
No. What is it, the tenants in
So let me
common?
tell you what, by what you just said, go to jail, go directly to jail, do
No.
not pass go, and do not collect $200. As a matter of fact, go directly to jail for 5 years and a $50,000 fine.
You know why?
You can find much of a good neighbor here.
Well, I usually don't tell them nothing. I always refer them
Well,
back to
but you-
title.
Okay,
I
title
really
can't
do.
tell them either, so
Because
let me tell
title,
you.
but title asks them usually at the end.
Okay,
You know,
so
how
let me
you
just
wanna
tell you,
do it.
this is a misconception up there. Ask title. When she says ask title, it's ask your title company. Technically, a title company cannot tell people how to vest their title. It's called UPL, unlicensed practice of law. It is a felony in the state of Florida. Do most people in the real estate community commit felonies? Yes, every day. You haven't been caught yet. So you cannot say, and that's a great thing, oh, hold it as tenants by the entireties. By the way, that's the wrong information. We cannot hold it by the entireties, only a married couple can.
No, it's the other one.
Well, right, the other one.
That one, that's what I'm saying. That's the one that's.
From Realtor Law School. Right. Stop practicing law, guys. You will get sued,
Mhm.
or you'll get before the bar, or you'll get somewhere. You gotta stop doing it. The answer is, I have a license to buy and sell real estate. I do not have a license to give you legal advice. Oh, that's legal advice? Absolutely.
Okay.
Case, we're doing a case right now where they didn't ask them, they vested them as husband and wife. They weren't husband and wife.
They assume.
Whole big problem, major lawsuit. So what you gotta say to them is, what are you gonna tell them? In the beginning of the transaction, anytime you deal with buyers or sellers, one of the first things after you sign them up should be, this is the most important transaction you're probably gonna make in your life. I would recommend to you that you hire a real estate attorney. All right? Most states, if they're from up north, they're used to having them, they have to have it. So I'll put in our little plug for our commercial now. We have a great program. We charge $9.95 flat fee, which if they're from up north, it's usually $2,500 to $3,500. We'll write the contract for you. So if you got a HUD one, we'll do the contract for you. We'll do the revisions. Then what happens is, most of the time that people hire us, we're talking here as buyers. Then once, let's say they use ABC Title, and once the title commitment comes in, we look it over, we write what's called a title objection letter. Anyone ever seen a title objection letter in their transactions? No. Okay? I would never buy a piece of property, and I don't buy property unless I do a title objection letter. I can do my own. All title policies are not the same. If you think it doesn't matter whether you close here or at First American or Fidelity, you are seriously mistaken. All right? All title policies are not the same. The biggest example is it's called the standard exceptions. All policies have a standard exception. Now, one thing is our company automatically deletes all the standard exceptions without you asking. Why? Because our philosophy is if we can give our clients a better product and it costs me nothing, why wouldn't I do it? Right? Some of you have heard me say this before. I had a competitor come up to me at a Florida Land Title Association conference and say, Barry, why do you keep doing that? I have these agents that come up to me and want me to delete the exceptions. Why do you do that? I said, why not? Because it's too much work and it opens us up to liability. I said, you do what you want to do, I do it my way. We do it. For example, the biggest one is the first exception. It's called the gap coverage. So if from the time you sign, so let's say today, the 10th, we sign the deed, and it gets recorded on the 12th, on Friday. Let's say that the seller did not pay the roofer to repair the $5,000 roof. On Thursday, the roofer records a $5,000 lien. Question, does title insurance cover you? The answer is no, because that exception says anything happening in the gap is not covered. That's a major shock, okay? We delete that, you don't have to worry about it. We had a case recently where we represented the buyer, and that same thing happened, except it wasn't like a roofer. It was a $200,000 judgment against the seller that got recorded in that gap.
Oh,
And
wow.
she put a claim in to the title company, the underwriter, and they said, sorry, you have no coverage. Please see exception number 1.
Oh.
She had no coverage. The seller, there was a $200,000 judgment from New York that was domesticated here in Florida. The guy came down, bought this house, fixed it up, flipped it, and he left the state. So they got caught holding the bag. And the other thing is when I talked to her, she goes, I thought something was going on because the day after I closed, I got a knock at my door from some guy that put the fence in looking for $5,000 that he wasn't paid for the fence. And I told him, I'm not the owner, I don't know. So I said, well, you could be open to a lien for that too, and you're not covered. So again, it's really, really important. So the other thing is we'll do that. We look over all the closing documents. Example, just yesterday, I had, when I was looking over for one of my buyers, and it was one of the national companies, and I caught them trying to charge him $251 for a charge that was unnecessary. I've now seen a trend where some of these national title companies are putting endorsements onto the lender's policy that the lenders don't ask for, and they just throw them in to try to add more revenue on it. So we usually save people a few $100s when we do that. So a lot of my agents say, well, wait a minute, this is not practical. We sell property on weekends, and we can't wait until then. If the client hires us beforehand, one of the attorneys is on duty that weekend, and then you just contact us, and then we do it while we're out there. Like the last one I had, my agent called me at 10 in the morning. She told me about it. We started talking. She goes, all right, what do I do now? I go, present the offer. She goes, what offer? I said, go look in your inbox. So while we were talking, I prepared the contract. She had it in there. She says, what do we do tomorrow? I go, I don't know, sell some more property. She says, no, what do we do against the counter tomorrow? I said, same thing, just call or email us and then we'll take care of it and get it done. They came back on Sunday, one minor change. I just looked at it and I said, just have the client initial it, we're good, and it's good to go. So the contract part in this is very, very important as far as holding title. Okay.
Then section 4, we have our financing, just standard, whether you can do conventional, 203, FHA. Section 5, great thing about HUD properties is, again, it's to try to provide affordable housing to purchasers. So the seller will pay reasonable and customary costs, and the buyer gets to choose title. And then section 6, let me see where here we go. You got your commission, which can be identified on the HUD website. When you go to that property, on the addenda section, it's going to show you what the sale, what they are paying the brokers. And then section 7, the net amount. What's important to understand is it's not the purchase price, it's the net amount to HUD that's going to be the determinative factor as to whether your client's going to win that property. Because at the end of the day, you want to know how much is the government getting back on that foreclosure loan. The net amount, section 7, we just discussed. Section 8, the purchaser. Again, don't try to do this for a friend who's trying to be sneaky, trying to get, a great deal. Because you'll see on the next page that if you do that and you do it knowingly, you can be committing yourself to a felony. I think it's $250,000 and jail time.
If you do what?
If you lie to HUD. If you know that your client says he's going to be owner occupant or is a good faith, is a owner occupant property.
Oh, and you know they're not.
And you know they're not.
Yeah.
And you're just doing it because he wants to get in there before the investor period opens up. And you do that, you're committing a felony. So behind the HUD contract, you got some standard exceptions. Again, HUD makes no representations as to the condition of the property. You cannot rely on the HUD disclosure as a property inspection report. It's merely prepared by the asset manager as to the condition of the property. Also, we'll see, is that the next slide? Right here. Again, I've had 2 in my career in the last 12 years where realtors have been caught in the middle. And in today's world where everything is done electronically, text messages, emails, my realtor got hit because a text message. Client emailed, you forget, because now, the cloud and everything gets stored up in the cloud, goes back years, days, months.
That's why I don't like iCloud.
So that's what ended up happening is they found a single text message. The
Wow.
realtor kept denying to me, I didn't know anything, I didn't know anything, didn't know anything. And the client emailed the realtor, it was 6 months before the deal saying, hey, no, I want the home. It's been on and off the market, finally got foreclosed on, HUD owns it. Let's HUD the investor. And the realtor said, you can't invest yet. The realtor was being good so far, you can't put your bid in. But then he goes, I really want it, I'll pay you a commission outside of closing, an additional bonus. Exactly. And then realtor responded, okay.
Oh.
Boom, whoops, done deal. So that realtor was practicing for years, lost the license, and what that realtor was doing over $20 million in deals a year.
That was like on the side, or they said that the investor was gonna quote unquote owner occupy it?
The investor said that he was going to owner occupy
Got
it
it.
line,
Got
and the realtor knew it.
Got
So
it.
the realtor put in the offer saying, it's owner
Owner
occupied.
occupied, I understand.
So both the buyer, the purchaser, and the realtor got hit. And this is a high producing realtor with over $20 million in sales a year.
Well, now we know why.
So here, property inspection, they make no representation. And good luck if you try to go back to HUD saying, hey, there was something not disclosed. Too bad. It is sold as is. And if you ever want to try to sue the federal government, good luck. They have unlimited amounts of money and will quash you. So,
You will disappear.
Russian.
You will disappear.
the property can be assigned, paragraph, the next one. Nope, it's not cutting off. Yeah, no. Mine is somewhat different. One difference between your standard as-is contract. When does the as-is contract become effective?
They sign,
And,
execute. What do you
and,
mean?
so on the as-is contract that we're all using, probably 95% of our deals, the effective date, that's the beginning of the time. 15 days for your inspection, 20 days, title, closing. When does that period begin to run? Present it. You got it. When when the last person signs and returns it to the other party, that's when the effective date runs. Because imagine if you hold the contract and you just never send it back to the other party doesn't know whether it's been signed, whether you accepted their offer. Has there been a meeting of the minds? You don't know until the other side has transmitted the contract fully executed.
And that's the most common mistake right now is everyone thinks is that, now on this contract, it's when it's accepted by the seller. On the FAR bar, it's when it's delivered. And everyone is a day off because of that. And I have had agents that have to write a check because they miscalculated the date and then their client lost the deposit. One of my agents last year lost $10,000 because they miscalculated. The other big question that's come up a lot is, when do you start the counting of the days? So if I signed my contract and delivered on the 1st of October, and it says that inspection must be done in 15 days, is the first day the first or is the first day the second? Okay, the answer is the lawyer answer. It depends. You've got to read the language because it's not consistent in the contract. So the inspection period, and I don't remember off the top of my head, the inspection period in the, you have to see, if it says 15 days from the effective date, or if it says after the effective date. Now, if it says after, the first day is the second. If it's from, it's the first. And it does differ in the contract, so be careful. The other thing is, if any of you want, we have like a 4-page outline that has every date in the FAR bar contract. So I always recommend whether the buyer or the seller, as soon as it's accepted, fill that out with all the dates, send it to the other side, because we've got to stop the gotcha in this business. By the way, you know that the polls have realtors lower than used car salesmen now. The profession is nasty. You're nasty to each other, and you gotta stop it. You're nasty to your vendors. You know, I call it the Trumpetization of America. Let's not do it. We gotta raise ourselves above. So when you get that, always send it to the other side and say, here's all the dates. Please confirm you agree with the dates that are on here so we can have a nice smooth transaction. Always nice to do that on the other side so you can get that done. Okay.
So the inspection period, under HUD, the inspection period is 15 days from the effective date of when that contract is signed. And it's always sold as is. And once you close, you are done. They're not making any changes to the settlement statement. They're not coming back. Can't go back after them saying you did not know there was damage to the roof, this or that. That's why it's important when you're working with your buyers, make sure they have their lending set up in place, ready to go. Make sure they're working with a mortgage officer who knows HUD. Make sure they're working with a title company that has done HUD closings. Why? There's been situations where people have put their bid in for a HUD home, purchased it. Closing takes a long time. Financing is taking forever. The mortgage officer is unaware of how HUD operates. The title company is unfamiliar with it. It's being purchased as is. The home gets further damaged during that gap period. You now have to take the property as is. So when you buy a HUD home, you want to close as soon as you can. So that's one of the benefits here at the closing agency. Closing agent is we have experience. We've done hundreds of thousands of these homes. We can do it. And then closing, we discussed earlier, unlike the traditional sale, the buyer has the option to choose the closing agency, and HUD will pay customary fees. HUD contract addendum, this is all on the HUD Home Store website. You'll have up there the lead-based paint disclosure, their inspection report, the property condition report, which is prepared by the field service manager under the supervision of the asset manager. Again, it's not a home inspection report.
But the other thing too is make sure you give the condition report and any of the disclosures to your inspector, obviously, and your client. Make sure to share that with them. All right. He's ready to go sell some HUD homes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great opportunity on this stuff.
Can you send us a copy of that sheet that you said, the one with the dates? I'll be able to grab a copy.
Yeah, it's, you just give a card to Janelle or her in the offices, whoever's out there, they'll get you that. We'll email you a PDF on that.
You have my card in your pocket.
And we can definitely do that.
So.
Altamont has a question or a point.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Celebrations into their iPhone.
Robert?
So one problem that we have right now is that there's a lack of inventory, right? And so this is potentially a good way to create some inventory for your sellers and for your buyers. So if we can find some of these HUD homes that need a little bit of help, we can do a renovation loan on them. That may create some inventory where there once was none. You know, we don't necessarily have to go through the HUD to do a renovation loan as well. So if you find some distressed properties that aren't necessarily owned by HUD, we can also take a look at those to see if we can build in the cost of repairs. The two biggest things with those are comps. What is it going to appraise for? And what is the scope of work? How much is that going to cost? As long as the figures work, we can usually get it done. So.
Yeah, that's true. Those 203Ks could be used for non-HUD homes, which are good to do, and keep that in mind. That we have to do that. So what are you guys seeing out in the market right now? Is inventory still a problem? Lack of inventory? Plenty of inventory now. Yeah?
I see the houses staying on the market.
The what?
The homes are staying on the market a little longer.
Yeah, the feedback I'm getting is homes are staying on the market. I'm starting to see prices drop because I think people got a little too piggy about their prices and they kept going up. So now they're starting to level off and go down. We're hearing down in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, they're starting to drop more because of that. But I still hear inventory still a little bit tight. Yes. Yeah. So I think there'll be a little bit of there that people have heard me say before. We're in for a correction, not till 2020. I think we'll have, about a 10% correction, which really isn't bad. Interest rates are going to keep crawling up. I think they'll definitely be, about 5.25 by the end of the year. Next year, I think they'll go up maybe another 1/4 to 1/2 point. I think that will be it, because then I think then the Fed's going to start seeing they're not going to raise it anymore, because they're going to see the economy cool down a little bit. But we're still seeing a lot of activity in there. One of the things we're seeing a lot more of is 1031 exchanges. So again, if you're dealing with investors for the HUD homes, make sure to ask them if they're familiar with 1031 exchanges. If they're not, let us know. We've got a booklet that's on it, and it's a great way for agents, because anytime you go in for a listing and it's an investment, one of the first things you should say, how about doing a 1031? And they'll go, what are you talking about? So we've got agents right now, because we do a special 1031 class for yours. They take their one property, they go buy 2. 2 years, they buy 4. So you can build your business with them on a downstream, and it's great to do. And the rules are pretty easy. It has to be for investment purposes. Can't be vacation home, second home, primary residence. And you have to have an intermediary, which we're a qualified intermediary. The money goes with us. They have 45 days to identify a new property from the day of closing, and they have 180 days. They got 6 months from the date of selling the property to buy one. So it's plenty of time to do it. And it's a great way, again, for working with investors. Now, again, as we see the economy change, investors get more active. So this is, again, a good way to do it. Now, there is a holding period. You have to keep it, it's not an official holding period. The unofficial period is 1 year. If it's under a year, there are certain limited circumstances you can still do a 1031, but I always recommend that people get a written opinion from a CPA, because the IRS can challenge it. So there's very limited circumstances why they could do that. So again, as you change your business, as the economy changes, you gotta stay ahead of the game. There's going to be, as usual, a big fallout in the industry, because there's a zillion agents come in, and there'll be a 1/2 zillion going up. And it really weeds things out on there. Right, any other kind of questions? Any of the branches up there, any questions? Can see it up there.
Altamont has something to add to the, there you go.
Hello?
Hi.
Line 5 of the contract on HUD, if you leave it 0, HUD will pay nothing. They will not pay doc stamps. They will not pay owner's title. You have to put in an amount or they pay nothing.
Okay, so again, you want to make sure you fill out everything that's on there. You can't leave it blank. A blank would be for nothing. Good, thanks, Phyllis. Celebration, do you guys have a question? Meredith, I got the microphone. Or are you just going to do? Are you just going to do a little karaoke for us? You put on the microphone in celebration. Yeah. So.
We do have a question in celebration. Hello, good morning or good afternoon. So we were wondering, we have filled out a lot of, in our office, a lot of different contracts for HUD, but none of them seem to get approved. And we have been very aggressive in our contracts. Do you have any idea of what can you recommend, other than, of course, hiring you to represent the buyer for them to be looked at?
Even get either. Well, first of all, are most of them investors that you're dealing with?
Yes, and we do waive their period for them to send offer.
Right. I mean, you're at the bottom of the totem pole when you have investors, because you're going to have the good neighbor, you're going to have the owner occupied, you're going to have the nonprofit. All of those come first. So the investors get the bottom of the barrel. And
Got it.
So usually some investors use the strategy. They do bid on everything, but they realize they're really just going to get the worst houses, the ones that need the most repair, because that's the most attractive to an investor. And it's least attractive to someone who's going to live there.
As well as the
Okay,
finance.
makes sense. Thank you.
What are your investors doing? Are they doing a loan, or if they do cash? Because that's going to want a cash offer. more secure, quick, fast, easy, get it off their
But
books.
are they doing cash?
Yes, they're doing cash. Some of them are doing cash, or then some of them are doing conventional and the other part cash. Mostly, like the latest that I just did, they were putting 35% down, but that one was a primary owner. A primary owner. It was a VA.
And was your bid, just out of curiosity, was it the suggested price? Or was
No,
it-
we went. I try to be as aggressive as possible since we have some assets to play with. So we went 25 over the sales price.
2,500?
25,000.
25,000?
Yes,
Wow.
sir.
Oh,
Wow,
can we make a comment on that?
sure.
When you have a bid price, the way you win the bid is the highest net to HUD. So if you go over the bid price and you ask for closing costs, that's going to lower your net to HUD. So either you raise it more or don't ask for closing costs, and that'll determine the outcome a lot of times.
Okay, so that's a good point. So that would give you a little advantage, is if you put down 0 there for the closing costs, then that would make it more attractive.
No closing costs were requested. The client had, I
Oh.
think, 217,000 to play with. So I was a little bit to get, but that makes sense. Investors will go to the bottom. Thank you for clarifying the question.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, it's not a traditional sale, so it's not that asking price. It's not that the home's 275 and you're going 285 as your offer. It's not traditional sale, it's the net number. So it's different marketing, different mentality. No, if you're representing the seller of the home as the agent, you're looking at, oh, look, we got you above asking. But what is the net amount in that seller's pocket? HUD is looking for the net amount. So like Phyllis said, reduce your seller's cost, the closing cost. That will help boost up your chances of getting the home. Any other question?
Altamont.
Hi, I had a question about the gap endorsement. You said you took it off. Does that mean you guys insure that gap, or I was unclear about that?
The gap coverage. Because once we remove the exception, it becomes covered.
Yeah, it's not an endorsement. It's we delete the exception, and yeah, it's effective immediately. So that way, in the circumstance someone does file that claim, it's covered. So leave it with this. Next month, we're doing another new topic, and we're going to go over, for those of you who sell new homes, we're going to go over, obviously we can't go over every new home builder. What we're going to do is give you highlights. This is the biggest thing where I think people definitely need an attorney. And there's two thoughts here. A lot of realtors go, oh, the builder won't change anything. So I tell my people not to get an attorney. It's a waste of money. First of all, that's the stupidest thing you could do. That's called sue me. Sue me. So when something goes wrong, you'll sue you and say, well, my agent told me not to get an attorney. Yes, you cannot change substance in there, but I will tell you this. I have gotten pretty much every builder to agree to an addendum sometimes, depending on what it is. But more importantly, is we go through the contract with the buyer and explain to them what's there. That thing is 27 pages long. They don't read it. And if they don't read it, then they go, oh, well, I thought this was going to be there and it's not. They're going to try to blame you. Why didn't you read it? Why didn't you tell me? Everyone point the fingers. This way we go through it and we tell them this is what to expect. For example, there's one major builder in town here that has put a provision in there that says each party shall bear their own attorney's fees if there's a dispute. Now, if you think you have a builder and a consumer, who do you think is going to have a complaint and want to sue the other one? Is the builder going to want to sue the buyer? No. The buyer is going to want to sue the builder. And this is a big deterrent because now they have to pay for it, even if they win. So we haven't had yet where we try to get the builder to add an attorney's fee provision, but we would definitely do that. So there's other things in that contract we can let them know, things we can point out, we can think, for example, a lot of times they'll say, well, the person in the sales office told me that's the way it's going to be. Because that's one of the first things we tell them. What did the salespeople or the decorating center people tell you was going to happen that's important to you? Oh, that there'll be no seam in the granite. Really? Great, we're gonna put that in writing. Right? Because they're thinking if it's not in writing, they won't do it. So that would be a good class to go over on stuff to do there. It's also gonna talk about different ways of closing, on closing costs and how you can save your clients some money. All right, again, thank you for coming. For those of you who do use us, thank you for your business. We really appreciate it. We do have Robert, myself, and David, our attorneys. Part of our service as our title company is if our agents do have quick questions, it's part of the title process. We do try to help you as much as we can. For those of you that aren't familiar with us, we'd love to do business with you and try us out. And the way we work here is we're very fluid. If anyone has any issues or problems, you can always come right to the top, or any of our attorneys or any of our managers. We've got great managers in all of our offices that you guys are at. And any way we can help you try to grow your business, we'd like you to be part of the team. All right, well, go out there. Hopefully it's not gonna be wet and rainy today. We've missed all this bad weather. Thanks.